Thanks, Jen.
Okay, and I put a flag up on the BCAT page.
Set.
Yep.
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. Could you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of America,
To the Republic.
which
Which
stands
Stands
one
one
nation,
nation.
God,
under
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty,
with
justice
liberty,
for all.
justice.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Before we get started, let me just say, this is a first for all of us, and the technology level for a couple of us is far beyond anything that we thought we would ever have to do. So just want to say thank you and have patience with us. Mr. Sagarino, would you like to start off, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I would like to ask Selectman Priest to make a statement about this virtual meeting.
Thank you, everybody. Before we get started,
Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Town of Burlington Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to or view this meeting while in progress may do so by tuning into BCAT Government Cable Access Channel, the BCAT Government Meetings Facebook live feed, or over the phone at 408-418-9388, meeting number 719-189-114. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did not include any public hearings or items that would require public comment for this meeting. However, Selectman Priest and Betty will be monitoring the comments on Facebook Live to see if there are any that the board may choose to address. Just as one final reminder to the board, all votes that we do for the virtual meeting will be required to have a roll call vote. So just we'll try to remember that as we move. We did not include any public hearings or items that would require public comment for this meeting. Oh, where'd that come from?
That was me, Paul. Apologies.
Okay, no problem, Nick. Okay. Shall I begin, Mr. Chairman?
yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're very happy to announce that we've come to an agreement with the Police Patrolmen's Union that we wish to present to the board. I would like to thank the members of the Patrolmen's Executive Committee for a very thoughtful negotiation. At this point, I will turn it over to Assistant Town Administrator John Denizio to provide the board with an overview.
Thank you, Paul. My pleasure to be here tonight to talk to you about and ask for a vote on a 2-year deal with the police patrolmen. You may remember that at last town meeting, we had town meeting had a 1-year deal with the police patrolmen. So the idea of doing the 2-year deal this year be to align that union back up with the expiration of other contracts that would be expiring after FY22 and EMEA W. So the compensation package includes wage adjustments similar to the other unions. That would be in the first year, wage adjustment of 2.25%, and in the second year, a wage adjustment of 1.75%. You may remember with the other unions, we added a new step top in a couple of them, and in this one, instead of adding a new step, we rounded the difference between steps as you move through the steps. So they were very close to whole numbers, so we rounded them up to whole numbers, and that was equivalent to adding the step at the top in cost. We also added in each year a $1 increase in the rate for details. Each year, that's been consistent with approval of these contracts in the past. And in the rest of the package, there includes some clarifications and language changes for things like uniform and equipment replacement, grievance process, union business days, sick, and and also there's a trade-off between an adjustment to vacation time and some targeted stipend increases to both EMT and education incentive for a change in the replacement of injured on duty officers and the addition of a light duty policy. Be happy to speak to any of those if needed. I think this is a very fair deal all around. There was a lot of compromise on both sides, and as Paul stated, everybody worked hard to address the concerns in a fiscally responsible manner. And I will add that the patrol union has already ratified. Happy to take any questions.
No one can hear me.
I hear you.
Can
I hear it
anybody hear
now.
me? Okay,
I can.
all right. Thank you, John. So at this point, before we go to a vote, I'm going to go to our comments. We'll start off with Mr. Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the patrolman and thank Mr. Denizio for all the hours spent in negotiations. I know it's no easy task. I mean, I think, well, actually, when we were interviewing for that position, that was one of the areas that we had focused on, and Mr. Denizio's background was his experience negotiating contracts, so that has worked well for us in recent years, and thank you again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. At this point, we'll go to Mr. Priest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions, but again, thanks to both the full union and Mr. Denizio for all your hard work. It seems like good stuff all around. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Tiggs?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just thank you to both negotiating teams on the side of the town and as well as the Patrolmen's Association, but no other questions at this time.
Thank you. Bob, I saved you for last. You're the subcommittee for this. How do you feel about this being the subcommittee for the police department?
I'm going to make a motion. But I would like the names or the participants, both on the executive committee for the police and your staff on the town side that actually did and all of the work you did in bringing this. Did we lose him? All right.
Sorry, Bob.
If
was that a
if
question?
not, then I will make. Yes.
I don't know if we got all of that. On my end, it was very scattered. So I don't know if Mr. Denizio heard you or not.
Sorry, I didn't hear Mr.
Let's go to the motion, if I could, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So at this
All right.
point, I'm just going to say really quick, I'd like to thank John for everything he did. I know there was quite a few meetings involved in this. I'd like to thank both parties for give and take, the way a contract should work. A lot of hours spent on this one. So thank you to Mr. Denizio. And at this point, would we like to make a motion, Mr. Hogan?
I would like to make a motion that we approve the police patrolman contract that's presented before us. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote. So as we go down the list, we'll go from there. Mr. Hogan,
I heard a yes.
I didn't hear anything yet.
Say it
Yes.
again, Bob.
Okay.
Yes.
Thumbs up is good too. Mr. Tigges,
Abstain.
abstain. Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Aye.
Mr. Miranda, yes. So Betty, you've got 4 yeses and 1 abstention.
That's correct, Joseph.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Paul, would you like to move along?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate
sorry.
and thank John also. John just, he's done an unbelievable job working with us on these contracts. His skill level is unbelievable, and I can't thank him enough for his assistance. Okay, so the next agenda item, Mr. Chairman, is the MSBA Statement of Interest. As the board is aware, the school department annually submits a statement of interest to the MSBA to request state assistance for future school building projects. Due to the ongoing coronavirus situation, the deadline for submission has been extended, and Bob Kuna has asked us to postpone this agenda item to a future meeting. So there is no board action necessary at this time on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Sagarino. Do we need to have a vote on this also?
No,
Or just going to postpone it?
Yes, sir. We're just going to postpone it to a future meeting. Did everybody hear the explanation? Okay?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr.
354, Mr. Sagarino.
Yep, next up is declaration of a local state of emergency. It's a little bit unusual. What I would like to request that the board do is to vote on a local state of emergency declaration. This is something that at the outset of the pandemic, municipal legal councils statewide pretty much advised everybody that it has zero benefit or impact. Yet I'm sure you've seen communities all over the place move forward with it anyway. In discussing it with the Board of Health, we thought it was at least to send the message to our community that the crisis is serious, and we would hope that they would take all the guidance that's been given out from the federal, state, and from our local Board of Health seriously. So Susan Luminello and Dr. Weiner have both reviewed this and are in favor of it. So to that end, and in conjunction with our Board of Health, I'm asking that the board approve the declaration of emergency that was in your packet. It was written and is consistent with all of those that have been adopted in all of our communities in Massachusetts.
Thank you, Paul. At this point, we'll go for questions before we get a vote on this. So we'll start off with Jim.
Now, Mr. Chairman, no questions at this time.
Okay. Mr. Runyon,
No questions.
Mr. Hogan,
No questions.
Mr. Priest.
No questions this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Do I have a motion on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve this declaration of emergency as presented to us.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Nick, second by Jimmy. We're going to do another roll call vote on this, please, gentlemen, as I call your name. Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Tiggs,
Yes.
Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Aye.
Mr. Miranda, yes. So it's 5-0-0, Betty. Betty, did you get that?
She's muted.
Okay,
Yes, Chairman, I have it. Thank you.
okay, great, thank you. Okay, fantastic. Moving right along, 355, Mr. Sagarino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At our last meeting, the board took a vote to postpone the annual town election. Now we're asking the board to do the same for our annual town meeting, which was originally scheduled for May 11th. Since the town meeting warrant has not been posted as of yet, Mass General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 9, allows the Board of Selectmen to move the meeting date. Amy Warfield, our town clerk, and I spoke to our town moderator, Bill Byer, last week to discuss a date. The town moderator obviously plays the primary role in our town meeting. It was decided during that meeting that the new date for town meeting would be Wednesday, June 10th at 7:30 p.m. At our typical location at the high school auditorium. As you guys may recall, the town election was rescheduled for Saturday, June 6th. So the date for town meeting to start would be the following Wednesday. And one of the discussion items we had was not to start on Monday because at the annual town election, we may have some new town meeting members, and we wanted them to have an opportunity of at least a couple of days to review some of the items that they would be voting on at the upcoming town meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Sagarino. Gentlemen, any comments on this? We'll start with Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's just the right thing to do, considering all that's going on with the virus, and I support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Priest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My only question is this, knowing that this is our budget town meeting moving into this, are we anticipating any issues, concerns around the budget? How are we looking with regard to that moving forward? And do we need to be doing anything in lieu of all of the meal tax and other taxes and fees that we would otherwise be collecting?
Yep, we are in conjunction with John and Whitney in the finance area, and we've been in discussions with Superintendent Conti and Nicole over at the business office. And very shortly, we're going to be engaging in a discussion with Ways and Means just to discuss exactly that, what we should do. I know I will say that from our standpoint, we've come very far in terms of bringing the budget through the Ways and Means process. And, you know, on a personal level, I can tell you that it would be difficult to make major adjustments at this point without anticipating a massive disruption to services. We are very conscious of the impacts that the virus is having on our local economy is not good, but we definitely feel as though we have a good plan in place, and it would be more appropriate for us to continue to monitor those, pull back in areas that we can do it, and then give ourselves some times to plan if in fact we're unable to recover quickly from this situation financially. I think all the departments and the residents would benefit from the ability to plan out, you know, where we would have to make reductions in the budget for the following year. So everything is still on the table. We're about to engage in a discussion with the Ways and Means Committee on this. But clearly, even some of the basic areas of meals tax and hotel tax, they're getting pounded right now. So we do have some real concerns with local receipts. The good thing that we can say, and what I've been preaching for a long time, is that we have a very conservative budgeting process here. So we give ourselves a lot of room for error. So I think that we do that for a reason, and that is to sort of handle situations like these as they may arise. So it's definitely going to be under some serious discussion over the next couple of months.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mike. Any comment?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I just, my only comment is, I just want to thank Town Clerk Amy Warfield for all her assistance as we navigate all of these delays and postponements. She's she's always there for us with good information. And again, thank you to Amy. Otherwise, I have no questions.
Thank you. Mr. Tiggis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one quick question for Mr. Sagarino. Paul, the time from the first meeting is June 10th, but say the annual town meeting normally goes 2 or 3 sessions, which would bring us to probably the 17th of June if it goes 3 sessions. Is that enough time, or do you, I shouldn't say that, we don't have a choice with the time, but do you anticipate any issues with town meeting closing, say, June 17th, and the new fiscal year just 2 weeks away after that?
That's a great question, Jim. We don't. I think we can get up and running very, very quickly here on the financial end of things. What this legislation does require, at least at this time, and there's plenty of changes going on to legislation at the state level, but it does require that we finish town meeting by June 30th. So our town moderator, Buyer, is going to be under the gun to keep the meeting moving. And if it slows down at any point, you know, we may have to consider additional sessions because as this legislation exists, we will need to complete town meeting by June 30th. So there are some considerations there.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Paul, let me just say this before we start with the vote. Thank you very much for the two explanations on both of those questions. They were very good questions to ask. I'm glad they were asked. And Michael, I also agree with Amy. Amy's been doing a lot in the past year with everything that's been going on. So I just want to say thank you. And at this point, would someone like to make a motion on this?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the changing the town meeting, annual town meeting to June 10th, 2020 at 7:30 PM.
Second.
Motion made, second by, was that you, Nick?
Yep.
Okay, motion by Nick. We're going to do a roll call vote again, gentlemen. We'll start with Mr. Priest,
Aye.
Mr. Runyon,
Yes,
Mr. Tigas,
Yes,
Mr. Hogan,
Yes,
Mr. Morandi, yes. All right. Did you get that? 500.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Moving right along, Mr. Sagarino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Finally, we have an enjoyable item to go over. We received a request through Brendan Egan of the Rec Department from a resident who wished to purchase a bench in memory of a loved one to be placed at the Mill Pond Reservoir by the Hanson Road entrance. As this property is under the jurisdiction of the board, this request needs to be approved similar to how we do on the town common. There were no objections raised by the rec department or the DPW for this request. They both thought it was a good idea. They did have a discussion about where to place a trash barrel in relation to that bench, but that's been resolved. So I know there's a map of the approximate location that was in your packet, and it's a pretty simple one from my standpoint.
Absolutely. So gentlemen, at this point, before we go any discussion, we'll start with Mr. Hogan.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support this. I've been up there and I've seen the area of the pond, and I'm just wondering if this sets in motion other requests. Will there be proper distance and space for people to do this?
Yes, I think, benches are awesome. I think that there's plenty of space up there. I'm not sure how many benches are existing now, but clearly you've all been there, and it's a relatively large area, and there's, in my view, the plenty more benches, the better. So I think there's plenty of room up there for these types of things. For whatever reason, this particular area had some significance to the family that requested it. I don't know what that is, but it's I'm told it's a very, very nice viewpoint for the reservoir.
Thank you. You all set, Mr. Hogan?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Priest?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul, just from the past, in terms of residents dedicating, an object like a bench to be placed in a public area, is that just discretionary to the board?
I think I missed that last sentence.
I'm just asking if the placement of the bench is just discretionary to the board, like, in terms of like, opening floodgates to people, not that people are donating benches every day for any particular reason. I was just wondering in terms of like what our past has been in terms of something like this.
Well, if it goes on town property, then it's under the jurisdiction of the board. I think the parks and playgrounds, I think they go through the rec commission to do that. But the Mill Pond Reservoir area is under your jurisdiction. And again, the benches are actually quite expensive. So I don't necessarily anticipate that we're going to be inundated with those requests, but the resident purchases the bench, and the rec department installs it, and they're able to put a small plaque, recognition plaque on there in memory. So since I've been doing this, these type of requests come from time to time. Certainly not, again, we're not inundated with them where it's become a question where we don't have any places to put things of this nature, right?
Right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Runyon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was a little surprised when I saw this on the agenda, but genuinely pleased. I've been trying for 9 years now to work with Mr. Sanchez. He's been a little reluctant to open the gates up there and allow access. Paul's chuckling because he knows what I'm talking about. He has many concerns, and rightfully so. But anyhow, this looks like a move in the right direction. I would like to see a few more barrels up there because trash is a problem up there. But I certainly support the idea as long as it's not, placed on one of our fire roads or something. I can't really tell from the map, but I'm genuinely in agreement of this article.
Thank you. Mr. Tigas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I actually support this as well. Anything we can do to make that area more user-friendly, I'm definitely in favor of it. It is one of our natural resources that I think is underutilized. I mean, a lot of people go there, but I think a lot more people would go there if it's more user-friendly. The only question I had is, like the benches on the common, there's different types. There's the older wooden ones, which fall into disrepair or not. Do we know if this is going to be one of those more resilient plastic type structures?
If you guys are willing to take a chance, I will try to share a picture of it if you have patience. And
I'll get the chance to do it right now, Paul. I'm more than happy.
you want to take a chance? Okay, I'll try to share a picture that Brendan had sent over.
Oh, here we go. We're all going to get lost.
Here's where the meeting goes off the rails. Let's see.
Well, while he's trying to, Jimmy, are you all set with questions?
I'm also, yeah, I just wanted to make sure, it's the more durable type of bench that won't require additional maintenance, that won't decay over the years. As some of them on the common is the prefab or molded benches, which look like they'll last forever. And then there's the ones with the wooden slats that seem to need painting and whatnot from time to time.
Okay, thank you. Well, while Paul
Did
is.
anybody see that?
Yep,
No.
that answers my question, and I like that.
Yep, there we
Is that
go. I see it.
Is it composite?
Yeah, that's the composite.
I will tell you this. I hope it's durable for the amount of money it costs, because it's not expensive.
Okay. All right. Well, that answers the question. Very good. Thank you. I will say this, Michael, I do agree with you with Mr. Sanchez. It's funny sometimes when you talk to him, but the barrel issue, I would like to see more up there as long as they're not on your fire road, because I get a lot of phone calls about trash, and I know we have the summer help that comes in and tries to pick it up as much as we can. I know they send somebody up there once a week, but kids will be kids, and it's a great place to be a child up there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'd accept a motion on this from anybody.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion, we approve the memorial bench at Mill Pond.
Motion made by Jim, second by
Second.
Michael. Okay, here we go with the roll call vote again, gentlemen. Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Tigas,
Yes.
Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Aye.
Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Morandi. Yes. So that's 5-0-0, Betty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Sagarino, 357.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had our de facto warrant article deadline for town meeting, which was March 27th. Betty has put together a list of articles for you to add to the warrant. We'll be refining those in the upcoming weeks, and we'll be presenting them to you for individual votes as we move forward. But for tonight, we just need a vote from you to add them to the warrant. I believe you've previously have added some zoning articles onto the warrant, so we just want you to add them on en masse And at a future date, we'll be bringing each of them that are relevant to the board to you for an individual vote.
Thank you, Mr. Severino. So we'll start off with any questions. We'll start with Mr. Runyon.
No questions.
Mr. Priest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul, line 39 has Sherry Ellis's name attached to it. There's nothing there. I just didn't know if that was
I can answer that. That has to do with an article I believe that planning is putting in, that her Sherry her name should not be in there.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it needs a little bit of refining. Everything comes in at the deadline, and then we try to sort it all out, which has been a little bit difficult this year, given where everybody's working in remote locations.
Sure. No worries. Everything else seemed to line up pretty well. I just had that one question, but that was it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Tigas.
Mr. Chairman, no questions at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan.
No questions at this time.
At this point, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Hogan.
Do we have a motion first?
Oh, yeah, you're right. We do.
Yes.
Got to do that first. Do I have a motion on this?
I'll make the motion.
Well, I'll make the motion, second by
Second.
Jimmy. Okay, thank you. Okay, now, all those in favor, we're going to say yeah, but Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
I think he said yes. Mr. Tigas,
Yes.
Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Aye.
Mr. Morandi, yes. 500, Betty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're going to start with the, we'll do the subcommittee reports first. We'll just go right down the list as the names I have. So we'll start with Mr. Runyon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just quickly, I would like to extend my condolences to the family of Richie Sarno. Richie was a good friend of mine and very active in the BCAT community. He was he had a keen interest in music, and he produced a number of programs himself for BCAT. He was a longtime member of the board of directors on BCAT, and he'll be sorely missed. So again, my condolences to the family of Richie Sarno.
Thank you. Mr. Tigas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No direct subcommittee reports, but I do want to acknowledge all the work that the town employees are doing. I mean, although we're in this suspended animation, so to speak, of life, the town workers continue to do their job. The police, the fire, DPW, the water treatment operators, they don't, I don't want to say they don't have the luxury, but they can't work remotely. They're out on the front lines every day, coming into contact with people in this day and age of no contact. So I just want to thank them for their consistent hard work, and all the staff up at the Leahy. I know it's, not a hot spot, but it's very, very active up there because of all the things that are going on. I want to thank them for all their efforts and helping us get through this together.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Priest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No direct subcommittee reports, but just a couple of quick things. I want to echo what Jim was saying with regard to thanking, all the folks on the front lines of this whole thing who do not have the luxury of working remotely and are out, still protecting this community. It's hugely important what each and every one of you are doing right now, and I truly personally can't thank you enough. I also want to take a moment and just thank everyone else who's considered essential. The folks who are still there delivering our mail, people in the grocery stores and everywhere else. You're helping keeping things moving, and otherwise, time where things feel very, very still. So thank you very much. To everybody else who's watching, and just to any resident who might see this, don't forget social distancing. If you have any questions about what's going on, please visit the town website and go to the Board of Health area. Things are being kept up to date. and our Board of Health is doing a fantastic job of keeping everyone informed with the most accurate and up-to-date information. So please keep an eye on that. Lastly, a wonderful thing really, I just want to thank all of the elementary school teachers who are putting together these parades around town. My daughter, who's in kindergarten, just had hers from Fox Hill, and I'm pretty sure every single teacher was in that parade, and it was dovetailed by two of Burlington's finest, guiding the parade through its route. But a great way to kind of get the kids active and out and making signs and seeing their teachers and experiencing something that's still socially distanced and safe, but was really wonderful in times like these. So thank you to everyone there. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hogan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have two things. First of all, I apologize for any disruption that my apparent problem with my local Wi-Fi is causing me to bump in and out. I'll have to get my IT guy down here to talk to me about it. But also, the one thing I did want to mention is a lot of people have been made aware of this. During this difficult time for our restaurants, alcohol sales have been allowed, beer and wine. When people order takeout from the local restaurants that have liquor licenses, they're allowed to order some beer and wine. Again, the food has to be first, and the businesses have to keep track of the fact that they need to be able to prove that food was purchased before the alcohol. And this was brand new for every one of the cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts. So we're going to have to just work with the restaurants and make sure that everybody's got the right information, and we do this right. So I just wanted to put that out there also. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. As far as myself, the only thing I'm going to really bring up is a water ban, April 1st. I know it sounds minute right now with everything else going on, but there is water ban did start April 1st. Jimmy, Nick, I agree with both of you, Mr. Hogan. The town's been incredible. You got to thank everybody that's out there working. You got to thank the grocery store workers and the DPW and the trash guys, and especially the package stores. They're open, so that's a big plus for everybody. Mr. Sagarino. I'm sure that everyone enjoys that right now. But on a serious note, there's a lot of people to thank. There's a lot of people to thank, but there's still a lot of people out there that need help. The single mother that is home with her children that can't go out of the house because the restaurants aren't working. The single father that's doing the same thing. It's not always a mother. There's a lot of people out there. So just try to be kind to everybody. And it's like I told Mr. Sagarino all the time, it's easier to be nice than it is to be the other word that I can't use. So at that note, I'm going to let it go. And Mr. Sagarino, do you have a report for us?
I do. First, I'd like to ask Betty. She just wanted to give a quick update of the types of information she's been putting onto the town website. As you know, we do have a Board of Health alerts thing, which is pretty informative in terms of the virus. But Betty has been working diligently to update the Selectmen's page, and our Economic Development Director. I know you've seen some of her work that she's been doing to reach out to all the businesses to provide them links to information that will be helpful to local businesses as well. So at this point, if I could turn it over to Betty and then I go back to my list, I would appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yes, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Boyd. I just wanted to make the residents aware that the Board of Selectmen's office is updating their page daily. And what we have on there is the letters for the resources for businesses, which our economic developer, as you said, is updating. We also have the daily Center for Disease Control update, which is also from the Board of Health. But we also have included a Burlington page so that all links to all departments are in there. So as each department updates their links, you can see it on our website. It's called Burlington Mass Municipal Operation COVID Updates. And under that, we'll have the Massachusetts resource updates. And following that will be the national updates. So I invite you to visit it, and hopefully we can all get back into work. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Betty. That's very good update. Paul, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Selectman Hogan covered the changes to the takeout service with alcohol. There's limitations there in terms of what it is, but I think statewide, everybody's hopeful that this little bit of a change will, help some of our restaurants stay in business. We're hopeful that it works that way. The next update I had was not great timing for this, but you'll notice in your tax bills that there is a form for the town checkoff box scholarship fund. As you recall, that town committee was recreated over a year ago. They've worked extremely hard to sort of start working on the tax checkoff box town scholarship fund. They did tremendous work last year. I know that it's a difficult time, but I'm going to ask residents to consider whether they could write a check to the town scholarship fund. If they have the capability to do so at this time, perfectly understandable if they can't. I just want to recognize the work of that committee's done over the past year and a half or so. Just another reminder from the Public Works, a disruption to our trash service is that, we're unable to do the overflow bags at this time, so that's been temporarily suspended. I can tell you that we had tremendous compliance this past week from our residents. I'll get to that later. I know that that's disruptive, but there'll be a delay in yard waste as well. And again, it all goes back to the trash company trying to keep enough employees not sick and out of quarantine so that we can at least have regular trash pickup on a weekly basis. And these are some of the real decisions that we have to make in terms of level of services. I too, I could thank employees for another hour if I went through all the employees I wanted to thank. So I think I'll break that up over a period of meetings. But for tonight's meeting, I can't thank public safety employees enough. I mean, they are just out there, no complaints, no nothing, just doing business as they always have and serving the residents. And we've had 3 firefighters contract the virus in their duties of assisting our residents. So it's a serious thing. The social distancing things are important. If you do have to call police and fire to your home, please do let the dispatcher know whether or not you have symptoms. We're showing up to every call, assuming that a resident may have symptoms, but any information you can give to help us out so they can be better prepared when they come to your home will be greatly appreciated. But these folks are just amazing. I can't tell you how proud public safety makes me on a daily basis. And again, I have another long list of employees that are coming to work, and I want to thank them at the next meeting. But I appreciate the opportunity to do so. These folks have been unbelievable. The next update I have for the board is the state made some adjustments to some legislation that will be asked. We're hopeful to have another meeting of the board, perhaps next Monday. They weren't made in time for us to include them on this week's agenda. But the state had allowed some local decision-making in terms of some types of the issues would be delaying the due date for taxes that may benefit the residents and businesses, the ability for the treasurer's office to waive interest payments for past due taxes and other payments due to the town under certain conditions. And we want to be able to bring those to the board as soon as possible. So Betty and I will be trying to organize you all, perhaps for another quick meeting next Monday to implement some of that additional ability to make some changes that the state has given us, given the coronavirus situation. We want to be able to present those to you. So we'll be looking to set up a meeting for you all to see if you're interested in providing some of the latitude that legislation will allow us to do on the local level. Last but not least, I really want to thank the residents. Overwhelmingly been positive in their dealings with the town. I know that there's been plenty of disruption in the services you received. The water ban, the changes to the trash. I can say that overwhelmingly, the residents have responded like they always do, overwhelmingly supportive of the situation. As you know, we've have to make a lot of difficult decisions, and overflow bags is a perfect example. It's not the overflow bag; it's the ability for us to be able to continue to have trash pickup on a weekly basis that we're trying to protect by not picking up the overflow bags for a period of time. And it's, you guys heard the story on the water. We're trying to keep the water treatment plant working at a level and keep enough employees to keep making water to support the town. So we've had to make some difficult decisions in terms of cutting back on certain areas on services, but in a way to protect the important services that that are essential for us to continue. We hope that this thing's over quickly and we can go back to being the town that everybody knows and loves. But I just wanted to thank the residents. They've been overwhelmingly supportive of these disruptions to their level of services, and I can't thank them enough. Certainly not 100% overwhelmingly, certainly, but 99% of people have been tremendously supportive, and I just wanted to thank the community for that.
You all set?
I'm all set,
Good.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That was very nice, what you said about the town and the residents. But Burlington's always shine. So I think that's it. The only thing I have left is citizens' time. There's nobody in the room. So
Sharon's here.
past that,
I'm going to unmute her. See if
There's no questions on Facebook.
anything on Facebook?
There's
Hi,
none.
Sharon.
Nothing from me, Paul.
Oh, thank you for joining us. That was very kind of you. You're our only person in the room with us for the meeting, so thank you.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
So you're saying we did a good job, Sherry?
I got most of that. We're a little bit in and out of there sometimes, but pretty good. Well done.
Good. Thank you. All right, at this point, they'll need a, Betty, you want a roll call vote on closing the meeting or?
Yeah, I'll to do a motion to close in second, and we'll do a roll.
So I have a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion to.
I'll make that.
or
I'll
Rob
second
make
it.
Motion made and seconded. Mr. Tigas,
Yes.
Mr. Runyon,
Yes.
Mr. Hogan,
Yes.
Mr. Priest,
Aye.
Mr. Morandi, yes. 5-0-0 to close the meeting.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. It was very good. Nice work.
Not bad for the first time, folks. I
No,
think
no.
we'll get
not
better
at all.
at it. We'll get better at it.
Yep. Absolutely. All
I'd rather
right.
get
Gavels
rather get
down.
back to normal.
Thank you, boys,
Okay.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
ladies.